America promised to pay for their medical care, and then they walked into Colorado's ERs. Promise broken. While all the focus is on asylum seekers at the border, Colorado is seeing far fewer refugees. We wave an orange flag of farewell to the A-line flaggers who are finally allowed to leave at this hour. And a commentary on pole dancing. Not that kind. Next is a family show. America's promise of medical care for those who serve our country should not come with fine print. But that's what veterans in Colorado are finding when they have a medical emergency and they go to the closest emergency room, just like any of us should, and then find that the VA won't pay. Jeremy Hohola from our 9 Wants to Know team explores why.
Stacks of paperwork, court records, medical bills.
Became like a YouTube lawyer, basically. I did a bunch of research.
Jay Hill, an Iraq War veteran, fought for his country 13 years ago, but spent the last year fighting something entirely different.
I mean, it's really hard for somebody that doesn't have a law degree to navigate the system.
All due to an emergency room visit more than 3 years ago.
I mean, I was just in agony. I was debilitated. Like, I couldn't hardly walk.
He's still paying off a medical bill he thought the VA was supposed to cover.
The VA should pay for it. I know they will because they've paid for it before.
But the VA really wasn't going to pay. In this letter, the Department of Veterans Affairs denied Hill's claim, saying this veteran has not received VA medical care within the past 24 months. Part of a little-known rule passed in 1999 called the Millennium Act.
No one's aware of it. My generation and people getting out, like, I had no idea that this was a thing.
That's been a real problem for veterans. Before the ER visit that Hill is still trying to pay off, Randy Williamson testified before Congress that these rules are not understood.
That some veterans do not always understand their eligibility for coverage for emergency care.
Williamson works for the Government Accountability Office and one of the authors of this report that highlights the confusion. In one case, a veteran argued he should have been notified by the VA that he needed to be seen every 24 months. 3 years later, Williamson still doesn't think enough veterans understand the rule.
One of our recommendations that VA needs to do a better job informing veterans and finding out what the knowledge gaps are.
In Colorado, from January 2015 to September 2017, more than 4,700 veterans had emergency room claims denied because the VA said they hadn't been seen for 24 months.
It absolutely makes no sense.
Colorado Congressman Mike Kaufman is a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee.
It's just unconscionable, and I think we've got to find a resolution to it. And my idea of a resolution is that VA's got to pick up the cost of that.
But Jay Hill is responsible for the cost. After the VA denied his claim and his appeal, the hospital, run by Banner Health, sent the bill to collections.
I mean, it was within a month they sent it to collections, and that was the end of that.
The collections agency filed a lawsuit against Hill.
You know, it's basically on me at this point.
Hill, feeling hopeless, settled.
I had signed a stipulation saying, you know, I'll pay back this amount. I mean, at the minimum payments, it'll probably, I did the math on it, it takes like 9 years, 10 years to pay off.
The VA declined an interview, but said in an email that the 24-month rule is highlighted in its health benefits overview. Banner Health also declined an interview, but said that, quote, Mr. Hill was made aware of his patient financial responsibility and is now making interest-free payments. Across the country, nearly 220,000 claims for emergency room care have been denied because of the 24-month rule. That has left veterans with $791 million in medical bills. History is being made on RTD's formerly troubled A-line at this hour. The train to the plains, subject of much disdain, regained some reign in its domain as flaggers now refrain from blocking lanes. I'll let Marshall Zellinger explain the end of the mundane campaign.
Kyle, we are anxiously awaiting the first train to come through this stop at Clayton with no flaggers. Right at 6 o'clock, an hourly flagger left here because there is no more work to be done here. For 2 years since the A-line has been in service, you've seen flaggers at all these crossings, and right now, this 9 News Mike flag is the only one remaining here at Clayton. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat. Hey, postal workers, these A-line flaggers stole your motto. For the first time in the A-Line's history, there will be no redundant safety feature at some of the street crossings. Flaggers are now off the job at Clayton, Steele, Holly, and Dahlia. On Monday, they'll be gone from Havana and Chambers and Aurora, and soon after, Sable and Monaco. 3 more crossings still need state approval before there are no flaggers on the A-Line. But what happens to these workers who have had to endure every kind of weather 24/7? We wanted to talk to the flaggers like Perry here, but he and others told us to talk to his boss. And just so he doesn't get in trouble, Perry never even told me his name. I know it because it was written on his hard hat. So I called his boss, Mona, at Rocky Mountain Flagging. She wanted to talk with us, but said she needed DTP approval first. DTP stands for Don't Talk to Press. I mean, Denver Transit Partners. They're the private company that runs the A-Line for RTD and pays for the flaggers. DTP said Mona could talk with me, but not about specifics, like her success story of getting work that she thought was only going to last a few months, but has lasted years at DTP's expense. So about flaggers like Perry, who, by the way, had to work his last day at Clayton without his bad weather shelter, which was taken away early. He and other A-Line flaggers will be shifted to the G-Line in Wheat Ridge and Arvada, because the flaggers that are currently there for G-Line testing are provided by a temp service. So if we're going to be sad for any of the flaggers, these are the ones losing their jobs. You have come to expect the most detail from us here on Next, so I have to tell you about this porta potty here. This thing is also going to leave in about 20 minutes. They are super clean here once the flaggers are gone. There were lights that kept it lit up at night. The shed, as I referenced, is gone. And this thing has about 30 more minutes. So we could stick around and watch it leave if you want to watch that, Kyle.
You know, I think we're good, Marshall. I think we're good. I think we're good. That Marshall Zellinger always digging deep. Thank you, sir. And so, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to ask you tonight, is the A-Line working today? Say it with me, people. Yes, the A-Line is working better than ever today. It's never been closer to its final goal, getting the all-clear from federal regulators, having the horns go silent for all those people who have to live along the line. As promised, when that happens, I'll be on the train wearing an I Heart the A-Line shirt and a party hat as depicted there. We're still trying to figure out why Pueblo County's unaffiliated voters seem to be having more trouble than independent voters elsewhere in Colorado figuring out how to participate in the primaries for the first time. An initial 18% error rate in their ballots in Pueblo County has been revised down to 4 to 8%. That's still high compared to other counties. The clerk down there says he thinks that people are just struggling because it's a new process. He does not believe that it's a language barrier. Pueblo is not one of the counties in Colorado that is required to send out bilingual ballots. Here's how that works. Colorado counties must send out voter instructions in multiple languages if 5% of the voters in the county cannot speak or understand English, and the census determines that percentage. At this moment, only 6 counties in Colorado meet that threshold. Denver is the biggest. It has to provide instructions in English and Spanish. Conejos, Castilla, and Saguache counties also send out instructions in Spanish. La Plata and Montezuma counties in southwest Colorado have to provide help for people who speak the Ute language. The Ute language is non-written, so those counties provide verbal interpretation help for any Ute voter that requests help. The candidates for governor are doing all kinds of contortions trying to convince you that polls show them in the lead. Call it pole dancing. But before you hand over a fistful of dollar bills or your vote, know this. These are not typical polls they're clinging to as they spin. Take the poll Republican Vic Mitchell is highlighting. A Western Journal survey that supposedly has him up 4 on the frontrunner Walker Stapleton. That poll was conducted on Facebook. Great for cat videos and for Russian propaganda, less useful for scientifically accurate polling. Democrat Kerry Kennedy is trying to fundraise off an internal poll showing her with a lead over frontrunner Jared Polis. If you have to pay for a poll to show you're winning, there's a decent chance you're not. Just remember, this close to the election, when you see the candidates pole dancing, the support for those figures is often pretty skimpy. Democrats have taken the lead now in ballots returned for the primary elections. Of course, you're saying Democrats run against Democrats and Republicans against Republicans in primaries. Yes, you're right. We look at the numbers because they tend to be a general indicator of interest and enthusiasm. The latest ballot returns also show that unaffiliated voters are participating at a far lower rate in this first primary season, where you can opt in to vote. One party's ballot or the other. Gotta choose. The flow of refugees to Colorado is down to a trickle these days. While so much of the focus is on asylum seekers coming over the southern border, the number of refugees, people who get approval from our government before coming to the U.S., that's slowed dramatically in Colorado. One local group's projecting it's going to resettle just a third of the number of refugees that they helped 2 years ago. The lack of refugees coming to Colorado means that donations for them are now sitting in storage, waiting for more families to arrive. The African Community Center of Denver is using the lull to shift its resources to refugees who are already settled here but are still getting the hang of life in America, right down to the little things, like teaching women how to ride a bike. In some of the countries these refugees have fled, women are not allowed to ride bikes.
I mean, with a slowdown of numbers allows us to get creative and think outside the box. And so even, with my time, for example, instead of solely being in the classroom teaching community orientation, I have the opportunity to, partner with Bicycle Colorado and use our time and resources and energy into helping women learn how to ride bikes. You can't help but make it a positive when women are riding by you with huge smiles on their face. Like, there's a joy in that.
Isn't that interesting? The African Community Center of Denver mentioned that even though they're resettling fewer people these days, they are always looking for volunteers and help with donations, and you can learn more in this article on 9news.com. A small-town police department in Colorado turns to Facebook to find a wanted man, and they found him in the comments. The Denver Nuggets think they found a steal in the NBA draft, but what to make of a man who follows no one? I know it's Friday and you're flagging, but stay with us. Next is just getting started.
Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories.
Look at this. Without the flaggers, absolute anarchy. That is a live look at the Clayton crossing of the A-Line train, formerly staffed by our man Perry. Absolute anarchy. We'll keep an eye on the situation.
Well, we're looking at our first full day of the summer season. It was a bit stormy, especially across the eastern plains. And tonight we're getting round 2, moving into parts of the metro area. You'll notice those dark, daunting skies out to the west. That's our view from Cheeseman Park. These storms really are having a tough time holding together. Not a lot of rain with them, but certainly some strong gusty winds rolling off the foothills. Wind gusts in that 20, 30, 40 mile per hour range near Genesee through Centennial. We have been looking at some damage too, especially on the west side of town. I saw some pictures in Morrison of some trees snapped in half from these strong winds. The severe weather now pushing out of our state's borders into Kansas, Nebraska. Looks like that severe thunderstorm watch will be expiring soon. And for now, just the clouds sitting across the metro area and those strong winds. Tonight we're down to 55, partly cloudy skies, storms moving out overnight, some sunshine moving in for the start of the weekend. Any outdoor plans for you tomorrow? I think you should be good to go. By the late evening, we'll be monitoring a couple of isolated storms, mainly in northern Colorado. Those move out, might find a few of them turning severe with large hail. Otherwise, high fire danger out to the west with red flag warnings continuing for folks out there. We'll look for mostly sunny skies tomorrow at 86, 80s, 90s across the eastern plains with 60s and 70s up in the high country. Little dip coming our way in the 70s on Sunday, and then we bounce right back 90s next week.
Little Dip, that was the name of that inspirational dog
Little
from the Boulder
Dip.
Bowler. How about that, Danielle Grant? Thank you. Michael Porter Jr., the Nuggets' first-round draft pick, is picking up thousands of new followers on Twitter today. Don't expect to follow back, Colorado. Unlike the Nuggets' other picks, who are also on social media, we noticed that Porter does not follow a single person on Twitter. I hope that doesn't mean he's uncoachable. Maybe he just needs suggestions. Michael, start with Next, and then also follow the Rockies. They're the best sports Twitter account in town. All right, everybody home, what are your suggestions? Hashtag HeyNext, send them to us, and we'll send your Twitter follow suggestions onto the Nuggets' new star. Small-town police departments in rural Colorado have to make do with limited resources. So, it's smart of Del Norte Police to post mugshots of wanted people on Facebook. I mean, it's free. What's priceless is when the guy in the mugshot leaves a comment below. Tristan Brown is wanted for possession of a controlled substance. The post about him was shared 143 times by at least somebody who knows Tristan Brown on Facebook, because then he jumped in the comments and wrote, "That's blanked up." Del Norte Police commented back and asked him to come down and turn himself in to take care of his outstanding warrant. We checked with Del Norte Police. No sign of our man. When we return, you get to tell another one of our neighbors you've crossed a line. And every Friday ends with your good news. Next. Time to tell another driver in our state, hey buddy, you crossed a line. Next viewer Mike Hubbard is so sick of park jobs like the one he saw at Carpenter Park in Thornton that Mike leaves behind little faux tickets. This particular driver got one for taking up 2 or more spaces and parking selfishly. Email what you see next at 9news.com. Some of our neighbors also need a reminder, that's not how you Colorado put down the baby deer. It's fine. Parks and Wildlife says it's taken in 10 fawns that didn't need rescuing from people, but now do since they've been touched by humans. A reminder, mama deer's just out looking for food. Leave the fawns alone. For your good news, we get high next. Our photojournalist Ann Herbst was going to go in search of your good news atop Mount Evans till a snowstorm changed her plans and those of the people she met.
It's the second day of summer. And it's snowing.
Seriously.
It snowed the second day of summer.
This is summer?
I guess if I look at a calendar, it is. Wasn't expecting snow this time of the year.
I'm having a hard time finding the good news in a snowstorm in June. Help me out a little.
Yeah, we're here to celebrate my girlfriend Shauna for her 30th birthday.
I can be here, I can be on vacation, see a lot of things.
30th birthday. She's finally joining the group. Yes. That's really good news, yeah.
She is my senior,
yes,
so
yes, yeah.
I'm respecting my elders every day.
I always love exposing my family, friends, and neighbors to the wonderful magic of mountains. And so my good news is I brought my 14-year-old nephew for the first time ever to Mount Evans.
Think warm thoughts.
And it was really light and woo!
Maybe that'll turn things around.
Woo!
I mean, it's the little things that have been making me smile lately and learning to appreciate them.
Sun will always come out in the mountain.
The thing about Colorado, good news and good weather are always right around the corner.
My favorite saying in Spanish is pura vida, which means it doesn't get better than this.
For next,
pura vida.
This is Ann Herbst.
Love it. Laurel writes, I see a complete collapse of society without the A-line flaggers. That's what we fear as well, Laurel. The flaggers. Never forget.